free on that asphalt lane. 4 wide at Talladega, they ain't holding no chain.
Gordon's right back Cuthbert, and we get Benny. Bars and I'm beer, the sun box, paper, it's down the team.
4 cars side by side in a wild thrill ride, with the roar of the engines leaving all doubts behind. As the wheels spin on, chasing dreams we can't hide. That's car life where legends never die.
Everybody, welcome to the 4 Wide Podcast. Once again, this week we're going to recap, by we, I mean I, only one here today, but we're going to recap Darlington weekend regarding to the trucks, the O'Reilly Series, and the Cup race. And then on top of that, we're going to get you guys prepared for Martinsville for the O'Reilly and the Cup Series. So this should be a pretty quick podcast because honestly, the racing this week, it was pretty good. It wasn't Darlington-esque, right? When I think of Darlington, I think of a race that we always see a lot of true grassroots blue-collar racing, and the truck series really showcased that. The truck race was so good, especially the ending of the truck race. It kind of overshadowed both the O'Reilly Series race and the Cup race. But first of all, a guy that we've seen before in Victory Lane, Mr. Corey Heim, comes up in the 5 truck and ends up stealing one from Ross Chastain at the end of the race. It's kind of similar to how he won the championship, right? He took those tires at the end of the race at Phoenix and was able to essentially pass a whole bunch of cars on that last restart. Got to line up right beside Majetski on that next restart and ended up winning the race. And Corey Heim was with a new team, different crew chief, didn't have Zipadelli on the box with him. He had the 5 team, and I would imagine that a whole bunch of the 5 team is a little bit of the remnants of the 5 team last year with Tony Breinger and the crew chief for the 5 machine. And you could tell those guys were pumped to get in victory lane because obviously their performance has not been the best throughout the truck series last few years. And to see them excited, you could tell they were almost, I would say they're probably more excited than Corey Heim was, in all honesty, which was really cool to see. It's kind of a rarity when it comes to the truck series, especially with someone that we've seen win so many races last year that they ran out of room to put win stickers to be able to go to the same team, but a different team, right? So Stricon, but a different team being for the 5. And people don't really think about that when they talk about motorsports, is every team is different, even those teams within the subsections of the major teams like a Tricon or a Front Row. The 38 and the 34 are 2 totally different teams, but they're teams segmented within a bigger team. Especially for new people that are into NASCAR, explaining that to people, they don't realize sometimes that there's teammates. And then when they do, they really get, Penske, they're all buddy, but at the end of the day, there's a different crew chief, there's a different fueler, there's just a whole bunch of different things that go in regards to the team. They don't all share the same pieces, right? Different jigsaw puzzles. That's a good way to look at it. Is you see one team has a specific mold where the other one's not able to use their pieces into the other person's puzzle. That would be a good way to put it for people that don't really have a good perspective on NASCAR. But there was a couple of really interesting factors for this race. Obviously, tires didn't matter at the end, where Corey Heim was able to drive down to the bottom of the track, slide up right in front of Ross Chastain, where Chastain literally said, he's talking about on the radio, he's like, yeah, if I knew he was coming that quick with those tires, I would have at least went down to block him. But obviously, he did not know those tires were that new. And given that Corey Heim was able to do that, which was a really cool move to see, to be honest with you. And it just shows you that Corey Heim is Cup ready. There's no reason that he shouldn't be racing full time. And, in the Cup Series, if you get rid of, got to buy your sponsorship and everything into to be able to race. If that was not an indicator, he would be in a top tier ride. And even Kevin Harvick echoed that, on the driver's broadcast, which was really good. I always enjoy that. Austin Cindric on pit road, fantastic. I love Cindric's personality. And Ricky Stenhouse did a really good job too. And of course, Blaney and Logano being teammates work really well. And then you have Kevin Harvick kind of fill in that veteran role in the booth, even though he's not been in the booth for super long, but it just seems like it's natural for him at this point. It was really cool. A couple of people that we've seen up front. Christian Eckes, a guy that we've not talked about a lot, in the truck series. It was cool to see him run up front. He led 7 laps, which it was good to see that team running up there. But obviously, the guy that everybody thought, it was his race at one point, given that he led majority of the laps, was, Caden Honeycutt, that 11 truck, the truck that we've seen win so many times last year with Tricon. Finally had a really good run, was able to we've kind of moved on from these quote unquote wild card races, these road course races, these plate tracks. Now we're getting to actual race tracks for what a lot of NASCAR fans say. They don't consider the other tracks to be necessarily cup material 24/7, like a standard oval. We're starting to see Honeycutt make performance. Chastain, obviously, this was a great race for him. I remember Kent saying last week that he wasn't going to pick Chastain to win because he would end up wrecking everybody or something like that. I guess he has his mind on when Chastain wrecked Hill at the end of, was it Atlanta? I guess maybe that was in his mind. Overall, though, I think the truck race was probably the best racing product for the whole weekend, and that kind of stagnant the results from the Cup race and the O'Reilly Series race. I think the racing was better here, especially with these truck series. They are a lot more limited on the tires that they bring in week to week out. Putting scuffed tires on really did matter for Heim. Just a couple laps on those tires was able to just drive up there and act like he just put brand new Goodyears on it compared to everybody else. Yeah, Carson Hocevar did a pretty good job. Ended up finishing around to this race. I know that doesn't sound like a good job, but he did lead laps early. He led about 16 laps, got 2 stages, I think. Finished 7th in both stages before the end of the race. Obviously had those issues. Bell ended up finishing in the top 10. It's got to feel good if you're Corey Heim and you're leaving Darlington, a racer's racetrack, one that we say multiple times here on the podcast, that only true racers win at Darlington. And you're Corey Heim and you're beating people that are racing in the Cup Series actively, like a Ross Chastain, a Christopher Bell, a Carson Hocevar, people like that. You're beating people. It looks pretty good on your resume, I would say. So I was happy to see that. I really do hope Heim gets a ride locked in before the end of this year for next year. I feel like it's only natural that he does because we've all seen Riley Herbst and we've seen that Herbst started to put a little bit more performance on here in the last few weeks. It's hard to sit there and protect Herbst when you got someone like Corey Heim in the wings just ready to swoop down and end up getting a ride. And you could argue, hey, he could go to that third legacy car or whatever, but he also has that 2311 contract. So really it's a nightmare to really sit here and think about and talk about without us truly knowing the inner ties to NASCAR. One thing I didn't mention though is that Ben Rhodes obviously had that accident, and this would be a track that I would consider Ben Rhodes to be really good at. And we had some drama, some social media posting. I love Ben Rhodes. One story that I like to tell people about Ben Rhodes is me and Blake were returning from the ARCA race at Charlotte. We were heading back up to our seats, and we were just walking the grid before we went up. We seen Ben Rhodes, and I had this truck for 3 to 4 years, this Daytona truck, and it's the only truck at that point that I didn't have signed for my diecast collection that I've been to race-wise. And he's sitting there on pit road, and he's talking to somebody. I'm sure it was one of his partners or something, so I was trying to be respectful. And I was like, well, I'm just going to head up here. I'm like, I'll get it another day. It's okay. And Blake looks at me. He's like, hey, you want me to get him to sign this? I'm like, well, he seems like he's talking to somebody. And Blake's like, I got you. And he says, Mr. Rose, and he kind of looks up. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll sign that for you, man. No problem. And he's like, oh, where are you guys from? And we're like, we're from regional North Carolina. He's like, yeah, I can tell you guys have that accent. It cracked me and Blake up. So That's always a good story about Brendan Rodgers. He's got a great personality. We obviously have seen that with his press conference after he won the championship for the Truck Series that 1 year. But I really do want to see him do well this year. And he's been putting pretty good performances, but to have issues like that were kind of out of your control, it's definitely frustrating. I see where he's coming from, especially where we've seen multiple instances of this guy getting it into with people, and it the trends kind of just follow, right? So that's all I'll say about that. Truck Series race, fantastic. If I was going to put a rating on it, I'll say it's a B race, B minus race, maybe standard, just B. It's a really good race. It's not an A like the best race that we'll see all year, I don't think, but for the Truck Series, I think it put on a tremendous product. So I was excited to sit there and watch that and enjoy it. Really got swept away in that race. Where when we look at the O'Reilly Series race, it was more of a race that is hard to get swept into when you got someone like Kyle Larson leading 107 laps throughout the race, which we knew when Larson got the call to go to the 88 machine when Bowman was written out. We knew he was going to be good at Darlington. He's great at ripping the fence, just like a Christopher Bell. We also knew Brandon Jones was going to be pretty good. And we ended up, ironically, that Brandon Jones finished better than Kyle Larson did at the end of the race. But there was one cagey veteran, former Xfinity/O'Reilly Series champion, just no go into victory lane. I only led 31 laps, but led 31 of the most important laps throughout the race. Able to secure that 69 points, which is pretty strong for him. That points race is going to be really, really tight in those lower series, given they have less spots than the Cup Series does. So you guys need to watch out for that as we go on down the line. Christopher Bell had a pretty decent run. He didn't lead any laps, but he ended up finishing third in that 19 machine. That 19 car is fast almost every week. It outperforms most of the other JGR cars, like the Grays, the 54. You could say it's to the drivers that make up that difference, or you could say it's the Cup drivers might get the best, and then the other cars get kind of the semi-best, the next best, right? So, but I mean, overall, not a fantastic racer's race. That's not one that you would sit down and be very excited about. Quick mention here is we were actually on the B post of Matt DiBenedetto's car. Obviously, he did not qualify in based upon the rules that NASCAR has, where if you are higher up in points with a specific car, then therefore you're able to qualify in the race. Someone like Nathan Bird, right? Nathan Bird, we've shouted him out multiple times on the podcast. I met him at Rockingham last year running the Truck Series. Really cool dude. I really liked him. Has a pretty cool autograph. He draws like a little bird above his signature. It's really distinct. Someone with that car that he didn't even, I don't even think he qualified. He wasn't able to run a qualifying lap, but he was able to race in that race over Matt DiBenedetto, who ended up qualifying, I think, like 34th, 33rd, which was 5 or 6 positions on the bottom that were able to qualify in over him. I hate that's how NASCAR is in regards to that, but obviously the rules are the rules. But it was really cool to be on a Michael Annett throwback car. It was the 35 machine. If you guys check out Matt's social media or Joey Gase's social media, I'm sure you'll see our logo on that B post. It's really cool to be a part of that. We're always supporting Matty D, me and Blake. We always love him. I know Kent loves him too. A cool thing about this race, and speaking of Matt DiBenedetto, this is kind of the shadows of Matt DiBenedetto, is Mikey Motorsports had a heck of a day. Someone like Parker Resloff getting a top 10, but at one point he looked like he was going to compete for a top 5 at least. That car was on a rail. And then Alfredo just outside the top 10, but showed a really good effort, and he was in the top 10 for a good part of the race. That was really cool to see. I'm really excited to see how that works out for them this year. They've been putting pretty good performances in this year. So I'm just overall, I think the state of the O'Reilly/Xfinity series is better this year than it was last year. And I know it's crazy to say because we had someone like a phenomenal talent like Connor Zilic come through and just burn it up. But I think from a purest racing standpoint, there's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 cars that I expect to be competing for a win week in and week out. And it's whoever can hit that setup the most that's really got the best chance that distinguishes them different. And of course, those do include the Cup drivers like Kyle Larson that make starts, and William Byron's, and you know, if Bowman comes back before the end of the year, I hope he does, obviously, as a Bowman fan. But if he does that, then he'll be driving for the 88 machine for a couple of races, probably to make up for the ones that he missed. But overall, though, I think it was a fantastic race. Allgaier was able to outmuscle someone like Kyle Larson, who's driving on Sundays. That's got to be a really cool notch on the belt. Say, hey, I know how to race these race cars better than, what most people say is the best race car driver in the world, which, I mean, I feel like any person like F1, they're going to say whoever their best driver is. That's like a Palou for IndyCar, right? I think that's just how it always is. I don't know if MotoGP would be the same way by any means, but for NASCAR fans that consider Larson the best to do it for stock cars, he was able to outduel him. And Larson had a heck of a day. It wasn't like he had a bad car. The flip side of like last week, Larson had a bad car and he won. Well, Larson had a really good car this week and just barely finished in the top 5. He was hanging on for dear life because Quapple and Corey Day were coming. Those youngins are looking better and better every single week. Great racing throughout the weekend. Like I said, though, it was kind of overshadowed by the Truck Series race. You'll be able to see how exceptional of a racing product that they put in week to week out. Moving on to the Cup Series race. Now, this is where it gets it's kind of like the Christopher Bell syndrome from last year. We have a guy that's won so many races at the start of this year, won 3 in a row to start out the year, and now has won 4 races overall. And given that now, he has a massive points gap on people. That's pretty insane in itself. But Tyler Reddick only led 77 laps. However, put on a pretty good performance. Keselowski, man, I was really rooting for him. RFK in general, given they were running all those sweet Greg Biffle throwback cars. Led 142 laps of this race, so really good performance by Brad. Man's literally coming off an injury, limping up and down a pit road, and is able to go to one of the racetracks that the tagline is "Too Tough, Too Tame," and there he is ripping the wall, putting on a heck of performance, won 2 stages, and 142 laps. That's insane. The crazy thing, though, is that he left the race winning 2 stages and coming in second and has 15 points less than Tyler Reddick does because he won the race. Reddick should be a surprise for anybody. Reddick's really good this year. But in general, he's really good at these tracks that you run up on the wall like a Homestead. So it just kind of catered to him really well. I think if there was anybody that's a really surprise in the top 5, it's probably like an Austin Cindric. People might say Carson Hocevar with the Dale throwback. I'm sure 100% I get what you're saying, but I think that it's getting to the point where we can't consider Carson Hocevar that dark horse anymore. It's just not possible. He's going to win a race before Ty Gibbs is going to win a race at this point. And that's no diss to Ty Gibbs, because Ty Gibbs literally finished 6th, and at one point we thought he was going to be a guy that was running up front for a good amount of this race. It's pretty crazy to see the progression that Hocevar's had, being someone that, come out of nowhere. We weren't really expecting a lot, has made such great progress, not only in regards to his racecraft, but someone that kind of invokes the fans. A lot of people. He's like the people's champion. We thought Noah G was going to be the people's champion, and I still think he is for a lot of people. But I think at the end of the day, you have to have that race performance and front row. I mean, that coming off the lawsuit as well, but they're not putting nearly the results that 2311 has on paper, which is hard to. I mean, you win that many majority of the races, you're getting poles and stuff. It's tough to compete with someone like that. Spire, I mean, I'll go ahead and say it, man. I think Spire's the place to be right now. You got Michael McDowell, a really good veteran on the road courses. You got Carson Hocevar, who's young gun, really sticks it out there. He's going to throw it in, probably places he shouldn't, and he probably gets in a lot of trouble because of that, but people love it because he's not afraid to do it. He's not afraid to say it, and at the end of the day, he just accepts responsibility for who he is, and that's cool to see. You don't see that much in NASCAR industry anymore. Everybody else is, you know, that one way on the track, and then they come off and they want to be PR friendly and try to act, like, hey, that's my fault, my bad, apologies, yada yada yada. Where Hostvar is like, yeah, I did that. I'm not going to apologize for the way that I did it. I hate that it ended the way it did. Stuff like that is such a rarity these days. You don't see people like Kelly Yarborough and Donnie Allison apologize for what they did on the racetrack unless it's egregious, right? He doesn't do that, and I think that's what a lot of old school NASCAR fans really like about him. Plus, I mean, he's always styling with the cowboy hat. Got the Chili's on the car this weekend for the Dale throwback. Really cool. Another thing that I want to shout out, obviously, I'm a little bit biased when I talk about this guy because, I got several of his race wins on my counter here. The Mexico City win just in the other day, and also the Sonoma Red Bull win. And obviously, that is SVG from last year. One thing that I would say to preface this is his car was awful. Like, you looked at practice, he literally was in the back at one point in the race. He was the literal car in the back. He ended up finishing 14th. This race, they were able to progress the car so much that he was able to take a point stay that if you finish in dead last, you're getting 0 points most of the time, or nearly 0 points. And he took that and was able to get, let's see here, I'll look it up, 23 points. At the end of the day, yeah, that's, not half of running in the top 10. That's a pretty darn good day for you have a machine that you did at the start of the day. Plus, it's, you're not an oval driver. Well, Darlington's an oval. It's a weird shaped oval, but it's oval at the end of the day. People, I'm telling you guys, he's going to win an oval at some point. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised when he does. But one thing that I was surprised about was WeatherTech was back on the front of the hood. Remember that they kind of said that, hey, we're going to pull out of the sponsorship game, Trackhouse. And when that happened, all of us were freaking out because we're like, WeatherTech's a huge sponsor. But why are they leaving? Really, that's a big shot to NASCAR sponsorship. And then here they are right back on SVG's car this weekend. That was really cool. See, I'm glad that he was able to get it back. I think it's a great sponsor for him because he came up with them for majority of his race. Now, obviously, with the Project 91, it's a little bit different. But you look in the O'Reilly Series, Xfinity Series, when he first started out, that white WeatherTech car is what I think of. And then he went Sonoma with it. It's insane to think about that. When I see the 88, I used to think of the National Guard because that was Dale Jr. And I think of, the font and everything. But now I think of the WeatherTech machine. And it's just because out of recent memory, I think that as a overall whole, I know this is crazy to say. I mean, we all love Dale Jr. Dale Jr. is a great guy. Was my favorite driver. Literally have the Dale Jr. hat above me right now. But I think that SVG's had a more iconic 88 career so far than Junior did at Hendrick. It's probably a little bit to do with the font change with the little slash in it. That could be it by itself. But at the end of the day, guys, it's really cool to see him progress and do better. I know a lot of people were a little nervous that SVG was not performing on the ovals, and people were like, well, got Connor Zilic coming in. He obviously knows how to win at ovals, and Zilic just struggled. And what is now the 88 machine now is Connor Zilic should take that legacy of that number That's going to be tough. The good thing is, though, he's already built a lot of that legacy on what he did last year with the 88. So I'm looking forward to overall just Trackhouse in general. I think they have a really bright future. Really do. But, I mean, sitting here looking at the race results, man, I can't sit here and be surprised. I really can't. Most of the results are pretty typical for what you would expect. Probably Larson finishing in the back. Logano struggled. Logano had a terrible day. I don't know what they did wrong. Qualified 29th, I think, and ended up 33rd. Just a terrible day overall for him. Riley Herbst had a pretty good day. Ended up wrecking midway through the race, or 3/4 of the way through the race. Who else was there? Was something else that happened. No, that's basically it, man. Logano had a terrible day. That's rare for him. He's usually really good at Darlington. And then Larson at the end of the race just kind of had issue. I think it was tires obviously mattered. We knew that coming in, but it seemed like as the day went on, we've seen less and less cording on the tires. Especially you looked at the first stage and the second stage, they started putting rubber on the racetrack. Everybody's running the same groove. That makes a lot of sense. They're still eating up tires, don't get me wrong. And I think Goodyear just did the best job that they could with this race. I think at the end of the day, it's just overall it's just a racing product of the car that they have. And yes, Tyler Reddick was able to put it in victory lane, had to fight some adversity, had a bad pit stop, was able to come back from it, drive up through the field, got back to the lead, and was able to take it from there. You can't take it away from Tyler Reddick, man. He is a racer. Michael Jordan was there. It's good for the sport. And I even had one of my buddies, Billy, who doesn't even watch NASCAR concurrently, send me a text. He's like, hey, man, I heard Michael Jordan's team's doing really good. He's like, is that rare for someone that's, a really new team to come in and do really well? And I told him, I was like, well, I would say for most teams, yeah. But to have the financial backing that Michael Jordan has, along with the veteran presence of someone like Denny Hamlin, who's been in the sport, who is still winning on a high level, just a veteran that's come out of nowhere, started winning races, should be a surprise to anybody that they're doing as well as they did. And I really think that lawsuit really took a lot of the wind out of their sails last year. Given that, I think at the end of the day, that's what they did really well. Is they put it all behind them. They got it done. They said their piece. They won what they wanted. They walked away from it and said, all right, it's time to race now. It's time to get real. And that's what they've been doing. They've been real with it. They've been racing really, really hard. So kudos to them. Obviously doing great things to the race, and looking forward to seeing what they do at Martinsville, because that's a track that Bubba Wallace has been progressing really well at. And Reddick's good sometimes, but he's not great at that racetrack. So I'm looking forward to what they got. One thing, though, that I will mention is I usually always talk about my favorite throwback from this race, and I usually ask the boys, and obviously they're not here. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys that I can't even tell you the direct throwback of what the car was a throwback to, but just overall design this weekend. All the Biffle cars obviously are fresh in everybody's mind. I think they did an awesome job. They nailed them out of the park, and most people are going to pick those cars. But the dark horse that's not the 77 is, I really think, Chase Briscoe's team of that 19 machine, that Freebird car, knocked it out of the park. That thing looked exceptional. It looked like a vintage white race car should. I really enjoyed watching that going across the track. Obviously, he didn't have a phenomenal performance for a Chase Briscoe, but he didn't qualify really well. I think he qualified 23rd, so had to fight a lot of adversity throughout the race, which Darlington, that's going to happen. You're going to have to fight not just the race car, but you'll have to fight the racetrack. Last thing, though, at the end of the day, it was a great race, but one of the best moments of the race for me was to see DW back on top of the booth, hit him with the boogity, 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 and I killed it, nailed it. It's like he's never left the booth from that. And then Mike Joy asked him, like, hey, you want to stay up here for a couple laps? He's like, nah, I'm good. I'm like, typical DW. That's great. That's fantastic. So it was great to see him back at the racetrack. And he sat up there and watched the racing with the boys. Didn't talk that much. Thought that was interesting. He's probably just tired because that weekend, man, it looked like it was a long weekend for everybody. So, especially Tyler Reddick with no heat suit for a lot of it. We had the voltage issues, just insanity. It's a great racers race at the end of the day, and real racers win that race. So, congratulations to Tyler Reddick. But before we move on to our setup for Martinsville, I, of course, want to always talk about Kyle and Wilkerson's Catering. They always help us out every single week. And not only are they helping us out here on the podcast, but they're helping multiple families out with their services of their catering. Phenomenal food, a diverse menu, recipes. I've seen all kinds of things that they've done for weddings, taco bars, sushi. He has a immense amount of options if you guys are looking to build a menu or a type of event that you're trying to put on. They kill it with. They can cater, pun not intended. I guess we could say intended. That'd be fine. I think that they were able to cater a menu strictly towards your event, or thoughts, your perspective, and they'll be able to kill whatever that you have in mind, because that's just how talented Kyle and his family are at Wilkerson's Catering. So if you're in the North Carolina area and you are looking for a caterer, there's nobody else better to email or call. I always include their website in every single podcast description, if that's on YouTube or on the old Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you're listening to this to. They're there. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. On top of that, if you guys are listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Tell us what we're doing good, what we're telling bad. Give us some stars, 5, 4, 3. As long as we're getting feedback at the end of the day, I prefer 5, though. That'd be great. That means that we're doing a good job here. Just little rock the like button. That's it. That's all we need. That just kind of shows us where our performance is overall throughout on the podcast. So, alrighty. To set up Martinsville, though, Martinsville's a great racetrack. We don't have to sit here and explain Martinsville for a lot of people that are NASCAR vets. Everybody knows what Martinsville is. So we do not have the truck series this weekend. Rockingham will be, I believe, the next race for them. But the O'Reilly series is racing. And there's a whole bunch of new names and names that we've seen before. Garrett Smithley in the 0. Luke Baldwin in the 5. That's his debut. So congratulations to the Baldwin family. Lee Pullum in the number 9. Brent Cruz in the number 19. Myatt Schneider in the 30. Andrew Patterson in the 32. Seen him race at ARCA a couple times. Really cool guy. 35 to be announced. The 42 Brad Perez. 55 of Joey Gase. The number 74 machine of Dawson Cram. And the number 91 of Ross Chastain. So looking forward to that race. And the Cookout 400, only open team here is Austin Hill. He's guaranteed to make it, though, because there's only 37 drivers, 40 spots. Tire situation for you tire heads like Blake. The tire setups are going to be the exact same from the last fall. And if you guys remember those really good fall off throughout that race, they introduced a new left side tire that was designed to deliver more fall off than even the year before that. It did its job. And along with that, the right side tire is the same one that's been used since Martinsville in the fall of 2024, which was that year that Ryan Blaney put on a heck of a show for everybody. I feel like Ryan Blaney always puts on a heck of a show. So that's one guy you need to watch out for, even if it is a spring race. Penske historically is really good here. Yes, the spring race, I usually think of Hendrick a lot of times. It's kind of their baby, and it's going to be a great race. So looking forward to being able to watch that race this weekend. So obviously the boys are not here for their spicy takes. It's just me. So I will try to cater up a pretty good spicy take to make up for the slack that is not having one from all of them. Is Let's see here. I was thinking first time winner in the O'Reilly Series and the Cup Series. So, boom. That's going to be our spicy take for this week. And if I get it right, I get like double points or something because there's nobody else here to back that up. All right. To finish it all up, ladies and gents, we are going to do the Pick'em Series. We won't be picking for the Truck Series race this weekend because they won't be there. Sad to say that though. I love watching the racing at Martinsville, and I think they'll put a great show on Rockingham for sure. But to recap, Darlington, Blake won by picking Corey Heim, which was a really good pick. It's a good value pick at number 1, right? Kent picked C. Bell. I picked Lane Riggs. We had a pretty decent day overall, just kind of grinded out throughout. And Austin picked Carson Hocevar, who ended up having just a great overall day, but struggled towards the end of the race. Hate to see that, but at the end of the day, it can happen to anybody. Given that, Kent got the most points. Kent's currently leading the stands at 155. Blake has 140. I have a total of 55 on the bottom. Austin has 85 above me. Austin was last. He would have the first pick for Rockingham. Obviously, we don't have to worry about that, but just so you guys know, for that next week, he will have the pick of the Rockingham. Martinsville, not a great race for me either. Austin ended up picking Justin Allgaier, the race winner, therefore doing really well for himself and clinched the win. Blake picked Christopher Bell, ended up finishing 3rd. Kent picked Larson, 5. I picked Sanchez, knowing that Sanchez usually does really well at this racetrack. At the end of the day, didn't have a phenomenal performance. Was able to finish, justifiably well, but not for our pick'em series. I had the first pick at Martinsville, and I cannot pick Brandon Jones, Kyle Larson, or Sanchez. This is tough. I'm in a pretty bad spot here, so I'm probably going to have to stick with one of the main teams this weekend, and I am going to say I'll go with Sammy Smith this weekend. I think that's one that I hope it's just the right weekend to pick him because Rockingham, he obviously won that race last year due to a disqualification, but he performed really well. Kent is got the next pick, and Kent says he is going to pick Austin Hill for his second pick. Blake is picking next. Blake can't pick Allgaier, Mayer, or Bell. And given this, Blake, he's going Taylor Gray. He's going to go Gray. Gray obviously put a pretty good performance the last few times that we've been at Martinsville. Gray is someone that you always want to look out for. Austin says he is going to go with Sheldon Creed as his pick for the O'Reilly Series race. Sheldon Creed at Martinsville, not a bad pick. Creed's been putting on a pretty good performance this week and the weeks before that. So he's been doing pretty good the last few weeks. All right, for a Cup Series race, we have me taking home the win with Tyler Reddick, the only safe pick based on practice and qualifying. It was just a nightmare to pick this week, so I went with the best pick overall, and therefore I finally won a racing weekend. Hooray for me. Kent came in second with Byron, Blake came in third with Hamlin, and Austin picked Larson. Obviously, Larson fell off the side of the map. Austin does not have the capabilities of picking Blaney, Gibbs, or Larson, 3 racers that you would want to pick at this racetrack historically. But Austin said that he is going to be picking Chase Elliott. He thinks that this is when Hendrick Motorsports gets their juju back, especially when it comes to talking about the spring race. Blake would be next. He cannot pick Larson, Bell, or Hamlin, 3 racers that you want to have at Martinsville. Given that, Byron or Blaney is who he's picking. Byron or Blaney. Kent would be picking next. Kent cannot pick Chastain, Hamlin, or Byron. Given these guys that he cannot pick, Kent is probably looking at Bell based upon what everybody else is saying. And then I have the last pick, and I would be stupid not to pick Hamlin here. I have the capabilities of picking him. I can't pick Cindric, Larson, or Reddick. probably the best looking coming into the weekend. I'd probably go Hamlin unless practice and qualifying looked kind of wonky. But yeah, I think that's basically it. That we have everything set up. I don't see anything else that we need to talk about. Oh wow, Blake actually sent me his spicy take. He thinks that the Martinsville race for this weekend will have a 85% or higher on the Gluck poll coming out for the Cup race. Obviously, they do not factor in the overall weekend for that race. Uh, should be interesting. We'll see what happens with that. That's a bold prediction for Blake. We'll see how it pays off for him, right? But that is it for us here on the Four Wide Podcast. Hopefully, we have a few more people with us next week. Hope you guys have a good week. Enjoy the racing this weekend. Some good old style Martinsville door to door banging racing weekend. Take care.